Right. Now joining our panel right now, we have National Treasurer and Member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha of the BJP, Piyush Goyal. Joining the panel as well as Ami Yagnik of the Congress Party spokesperson. She's joining us from Ahmedabad. KTS Tulsi, Senior Advocate. Joining the panel on Colgate, TSR Subramaniam, former Cabinet Secretary. Hartosh Singh Bal, Sankarshan Thakur, and Vinod Mehta, and Ajay Bose and Aarti Jairath are with us here in the studio. My first question is to PC Parekh. Navika Kumar is with me. Mr. Parekh, these are fairly serious charges which you have against you. Now, let me not beat around the bush. My question to you is, did you meet Mr. Parekh Kumaramangalam Birla sometime in 2005, after which an earlier decision of the screening committee was overturned and this company, Hindalco, was accommodated along with the other two? Did you meet Kumaramangalam Birla? Where did the meeting happen? Why did it happen? And was it not an abuse of your position as the CBI has charged against you?
Yes, I confirm that this meeting took place. This meeting took place in my office. It took place because Mr. Birla wanted to make a representation in regard to the allocation of Talabira 2 blocks to Hindalco. He made a representation that screening committee decision has not been fair to the company because they were the first applicants for this block and they were as eligible as Naval Lignite Corporation, and therefore screening committee decision needs to be reviewed.
No, but you did not go only by Mr. Birla's contention. You are saying and you are admitting that Mr. Birla had the Prime Minister's office's backing. Are you saying that, and can you tell me if that is true?
No, I am not saying that he had a backing. All that I am saying is that Mr. Birla also made a representation to Prime Minister, and that representation was also forwarded to my ministry for examination and resubmission.
No, one second. Don't dilute what you're saying. You have said the PMO saw merit in Birla's comment and asked you to re-examine the case. So no, if the Prime Minister's office had not found merit in what Kumaramangalam Birla was saying, you wouldn't have met him and the case wouldn't have changed. Obviously, there was some pressure being put.
Sorry, I didn't say that the PMO saw some merit and asked me to re-examine. PMO simply forwarded their application for re-examination and resubmission. It was, in my judgment,
well, I have
against the Prime Minister, nor have I made a request that he should be investigated. What I have said is that decision which was taken in this case was a fair and correct decision. My recommendation, I feel, was correct and fair to both the companies, and the same was approved by the Prime Minister. I am not finding fault with the Prime Minister for approving that decision.
No, sir, Sir, are you under pressure? Are you under any pressure?
I was under no pressure, and
are you now under any pressure?
No, I am also now not under any pressure. This decision.
No, because you have said, and I have you on court saying, you have said that if the CBI thinks there is the conspiracy, why did they choose and select Mr. Birla and me and not the Prime Minister?
Yes, I'm coming to that.
If the conspiracy is there, then everybody is part of the conspiracy.
I am coming to that. So my point is that in my understanding, that decision was not wrong decision, and it was a fair and correct decision in favor of both the parties.
That may be your
now,
view,
if this is my view.
That may be your view.
Exactly.
No,
if CBI
thinks says there's a conspiracy.
That's what I am saying. If CBI thinks that there is a conspiracy, then conspiracy has to be between everybody who is a party to this decision. And
who is everybody, sir? Why are you going? Why don't you be direct with me? Who is everybody?
I am very clearly saying that the three parties to decision are Mr. Birla, who made a representation. The second party is me, who examined this and made a recommendation. And the third party is the Prime Minister, who took a decision. So if CBI thinks that there is a conspiracy, then all the three needs to be investigated.
Well, fine. That's the point. So, Ami Yagnik, this puts the Congress party pretty much in a dock here. But I'll get Piyush Goyal in before I come to you. So, Piyush Goyal, where do you see the story developing out here? The Congress party, by the way, says these matters are sub judice. They should not be discussed right now. People should exercise caution in what they say in response to what Mr. Parekh has said.
I've been reflecting, Arnab, a little bit on what's happening. And I'm very worried about this stance of the government, where A, they're trying to shoot the messenger, the whistleblower who first brought to fore the important aspect of the growing demand for coal, starting from somewhere early 2004, the fact that coal prices were on the rise worldwide, and there was an urgent need to address the increasing applications around that time to have a transparent process which was suggested to be auctioned. In that period, Mr. Parakh was the one lone voice who came up with the concept, who argued the case. The government, I think today, is using the CBI to try and put Parakh in the dock and a very reputed person like Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla. They are picking up the soft spot, the case where there is hardly any case to attack, and trying to deflect from the bigger scam where hundreds of blocks were given to cronies.
You still say this despite the fact that the CBI has filed charges against Vijay Darda and even named Davin Jindal. If it wanted to go slow or protect anyone, would it not protect these congressmen?
This is a clear case where they are finding the whole process having been vitiated. The screening committee has been demonstrated to be vitiated around 2007, 8, 9. Examples are given of Rampia, of Fatehpur. They are trying to deflect from the real scam
No, but will they question the Prime Minister? Will they name the Prime Minister? Can they afford to name the Prime Minister in the FIR?
Every step
That's the question.
Arnab, how long can they go not examining the Prime
Well,
Minister? They seem to be getting closer and closer and
You
closer
think
to
so?
him.
What do you think? Hartosh, what do you think?
Look, I think there is some merit to what Piyush Goyal is suggesting. If proper procedural practices are not being followed in this case, then you are leaving open a lacuna for the court to come back and tell you what are you doing with the investigation. So there are questions, we have to raise serious questions about how CBI is investigating this case, who it is indicting, and if the trail does lead to the Prime Minister, why has he been left out in this case?
Mr.
And
Parag,
Kumaramangalam Birla, can I just say also, is a friend. I mean, can I say this? Is a friend of the Congress party. He's not hostile to the Congress party. So there is no reason why the CBI should pick on Kumaramangalam Birla.
No, the question here is we are discussing what Mr. Parekh has said. I think what Mr.
The point which you are raising is very relevant, because I think we need to also see how long can the Prime Minister escape scrutiny, because we are slowly but surely heading to a situation where the Prime Minister's responsibility in this entire thing, he must have been in the know.
Is there an attempt to fix the whistleblower? 1 second. Do we believe here, do we believe, Sankarshan, that Mr. Parekh is the whistleblower and that there is an attempt to fix the whistleblower out
Make him
here?
an accused before he becomes a witness.
And put the pressure on him, make him an accused? You know, so he's forced to backtrack.
It's difficult to judge, Arnab. It's an allegation. But the point is, he was an officer at the time who was opposing the way things were being done. And as everyone's saying, even in the JPC, we saw Prime Minister saying, I am ready to come, I am ready to come. His party saying, no need for him to. The Prime Minister has been shielded for far too long on very probing issues and on critical questions. And, things are moving in a direction where it will become untenable for the Prime Minister not to speak out personally. And nobody should question my integrity kind of
like attacking a reporter.
It's
like attacking a reporter for doing a wrong story and not going after the editor.
That's well said.
No, I completely agree that the Prime Minister cannot escape scrutiny. But I'm really curious about the government's thought processes here. Look, if the CBI plans to file a case against a reputed industrialist like Kumaramangalam Birla and a former senior bureaucrat, a former
Corruption Act. It says abuse of authority, but abuse of authority by allocation. The policy, according to the CAG, the policy of coal allocation was guided by 3 factors. One was to augment coal production, and the second was to augment power production, and the third was to reduce the dependence on imports, import of oil which were going haywire. Now the question is that if this was the policy, and then Mr. Parekh did suggest the competitive bidding route, to which the states objected, and the states which objected were also Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, and West Bengal, etc.
Mr. Tulsi, yeah. Mr. Tulsi, I am making a comparison between this and 2G. In the case of 2G, A. Raja said that all decisions were with the knowledge of the Prime Minister and the then Finance Minister. Despite that, he says the JPC did not allow him to depose in person or summon the Prime Minister or the Finance Minister. In this case also, the accused, Mr. Parekh, is saying that the Minister, that is the Prime Minister, was in the know.
The difference in...
Isn't that the point, TSR Subramaniam?
That the difference between 2G and...
There are 2 cases now, two of the biggest scams in the country, Colgate and 2G scam, in which similar points are being made by people accused.
Arnab, there's no question at all in this particular matter. What we are now doing is, the officer who stood steadfast against arbitrariness, who wanted transparency, he is now being roped in as a potential accused. And the issue is very simple here. If you look only at this FIR, if he is on the loop, then people around him and people above him are in the loop, the decision maker is in the loop. I don't think there is any question about it. But what is the purpose of this? The purpose, as far as I can see, is this, that over a large scam bigger than 2G has taken place. The idea is to bury it now. Now we need to have a large number of splinter cases coming up. Who better than Parekh to be one of the accused? Flog it for 2-3 years. Let him prove his innocence. Meanwhile, the main issue will get forgotten, and that is the game plan that is taking place.
And bring Mr. Birla, who's the epitome of honesty and integrity in this country, so that once and for all corporate India stops talking about the rest of the scam and media also focuses on the big name. And indirectly, Arnab, I see dark omens for this country's corporate world, which provides jobs, which provides growth, which provides a future for the people.
That's not the point.
We cannot be apologists for the corporate. We can't be apologists for the corporate world.
Yes, you don't have to be apologists.
No.
But if you're going to
go by the rule of law.
We have to go by the rule of law.
Whether Mr. Kumaramanglam is guilty or not guilty will be proved. The courts will decide, the law will decide. So we cannot go soft on any particular
person. It's not a question of going soft on anybody.
No, what I'm trying to say.
After all, we all understand what Mr. Birla is. We have seen Mr. Parekh's track record. The CAG report has categorically explained what happened.
If we have to go by MR,
let's not go off track. You see, here's a simple point. Can I just say, the person on our program today is a person who admits, I met Kumaramangalam Birla. I discussed this particular coal allocation. And he and Kumaramangalam Birla met. CBI says this was wrong and this was a conspiracy. Both of these people are named in the FIR. What he's saying is that I met on the instance of the Prime Minister's office.
And is not wrong.
No, the question therefore is that
is there some circumstantial evidence that a bribe was paid? That there was some illegality
what I'm saying is
there are 140 other cases.
The question is, did the Prime Minister's office say don't have the meeting? The decisions are being taken, it cannot be affected, the procedures cannot be changed, we may be accused of doing something malafide, wrong intention can be seen, nothing, and apparently not.
No, Hindalco has apparently said not. The Prime Minister first.
Apparently not. It doesn't say so. So Navika wants to go back to Mr. Parekh and ask him.
Mr. Parekh, the question that everybody wants to know and understand from you is that you said that you met in July Mr. Kumaramangalam Birla. After that, you overturned the earlier decision of the screening committee. The fact is, when you overturn, what were the circumstances which made you overturn that decision? And secondly, when the decision was overturned, on the file, was it just your signature or did it go up to the Minister of Coal at that time, who was the Prime Minister? The signing authority on the file which actually allocated this coal block, that's where the story would be.
Well, let me first of all clarify that I did not meet Mr. Kumar Mangla at the instance of Prime Minister's office. It was Kumar Mangalam Birla's office which directly contacted me and fixed an appointment for him to meet me. Now, there is a meeting between Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla and me does not automatically amounts to any conspiracy. Any industrialist, there are a number of industrialists who have been meeting me in connection with their request for a variety of things. So any meeting of a secretary with an industrialist does not amount to a conspiracy. And therefore, to say that because Mr. Birla came and called on me and there has been a conspiracy is absolute nonsense. Now, second point is that after Mr. Birla made his representation, I felt that yes, there is a merit in his representation because they had exactly similar claim to the block as Naval Lignite Corporation had. We had in screening committee recommended Naval Corporation simply because it was a public sector company, and since it was my own ministry's company, I also felt that we will recommend it in case of Naval Lignite Corporation. But after Mr. Birla made that representation saying that...
Mr. Parekh, sorry to interrupt there. Let's go down to basics. Let's go down. When you met Mr. Birla, right? When you met Mr. Birla, did you know that Mr. Birla had, approached the Prime Minister's office and the Prime Minister's office had encouraged the meeting between you and Mr. Birla? Just answer that, please. No, let's be very direct on that.
I do not understand your statement that Prime Minister's office encouraged me to make a meeting. I did not get any direction from Prime Minister's office to meet Mr. Birla. It was a direct...
Mr. Parekh, please remember this, that I have you on record responding to the CBI's charge that he favored Aditya Birla Group Chairman Kumaramangalam Birla. Parekh said, and I quote, Mr. Birla met the Prime Minister and made the presentation that allocation made to Neyveli was unfair. The PMO found merit in Birla's statement and asked me to re-examine it. He said, that is you said, that the entire files involved in the allocation process were approved only after the consent of the Prime Minister and hence he was more responsible than anyone. Quote, I won't say the Prime Minister is the main conspirator, but I will say he has more responsibility, said Parekh. Are you going back on all this? I can quote...
I am not going back on any of these statements. All I am saying is that Prime Minister's office sent me the representation made by Mr. Birla to me for examination and resubmission.
No, but then you must be a little clear. You have also claimed
That's the only
Mr. Parekh, are you prevaricating under pressure? Some of our panelists feel you are prevaricating under pressure. You have also claimed that ministers made representations to remove you from your post because you tried to bring in transparency. Name the ministers today, sir. Who are the people who were trying to get you out? Who are the ministers who sent in representations to the Prime Minister to move you out?
It was Mr. Shibu Soren. He wrote a long DO letter to the Prime Minister to move me out.
You have also accused the CBI of not having the courage to charge the Prime Minister. Are you alleging, Mr. Parekh, that the Prime Minister has committed acts of omission or commission for which he should be charged, not just in this particular allotment, but the entire Colgate case? Because I have you on court also as saying, I don't know why the CBI is making the case. It is either being used or does not have the courage to charge the Prime Minister.
I'm very clearly saying that this decision was a right decision and there is no reason for...
No, not about the decision being the right decision. You have said in the past that the CBI does not have the courage to charge the Prime Minister. Do you stand by that or not?
Mr. Arna, please listen to me. What I am saying is that I am not alleging anything against the Prime Minister. I said this decision was a fair and right decision and there is no case for CBI to...
I am not talking about the decision being fair or right, sir. You must understand that the most...
Please allow me to complete my...
No, Mr.
Please allow me to complete my statement.
But Mr. Parekh, what are we talking about?
Please don't interfere in between. Let me allow... Please allow me to complete my statement.
I must know whether you are on track with what you've said in the past, because the charge is it does not matter whether what you think what was right or wrong. The CBI thinks there was a conspiracy.
You
have said yourself if there was a conspiracy...
I am absolutely stand by my statement that if CBI thinks that there was a conspiracy, then everybody who is involved in this conspiracy, which includes Prime Minister, should be investigated. What I am saying is that, to my mind, this decision was not a wrong decision, and therefore there is no case at all.
Precisely. So that's what you're saying. So we've got some analysis. Please keep in mind, Mr. Parekh, that there will be a lot of people observing you right now to see whether you're retracing your steps. Because Mr. Piyush Goyal, for example, of the BJP, is of the view that the pressure is being put on you, Mr. Parekh, so that you retrace your steps and you remain in the dock.
Also, to make you an accused,
I am not at all retracing my...
You cannot become a witness against for the rest of the scam. So they found the soft spot to attack, deflected public opinion and the discourse in the nation to a Kumar Mangalam and Parak issue who are both considered and known in the world as good people, and then save the rest.
Is Ami Agnik there on the line? Do I still have her on the satellite thing? Ami Agnik, are you looking at this? You know, can you avoid any responsibility here? Can you wash your hands off? The whole country is watching here. That the alleged whistleblower in the case is facing pressure. He's saying that I didn't do this alone. If I did it, then I did it. Mr. Birla and me charge us, but then what about the Prime Minister?
He's saying he didn't do anything.
He didn't do anything.
He's not saying I didn't do it alone.
Yes. Ami Agnik, is it?
He's saying I didn't do it.
Can I?
I did it, then Prime Minister should
let the Congress respond to this situation, which is getting more complicated.
Yes. Now, first things first, I know you will not like it, but the matter is sub judice. The Honorable Apex Court is looking and seized of the matter, and all these matters are very sensitive because, you know, there are almost about 15 FIRs filed. This is another FIR which is talking about conspiracy and corruption of a particular bureaucrat and a corporate director. Now, the second point is that when there are almost about 796 files and 157 files still coming to the CBI, and a detailed investigation is going on. No, we cannot go on a sweeping statement made by an accused who is arraigned in the FIR, asking on a channel or in a public sphere that you please make a particular person here the Honorable Prime Minister as a co-accused. No, this is not done. This is not done. A legal procedure has to be followed. If he was the whistleblower, the matter is going on for 2 years. He has to go, and why he has chosen now just because of an FIR being filed? He should have gone earlier and told that here I brought so many recommendations, transparency, I did so many things and I brought it to the notice of the government and the ministries. Why has he come at a later stage just because he is now accused in an FIR? So you can't just make sweeping statements and all the time at the smallest issue you bring the Honorable Prime Minister in the picture.
And suddenly he reads about it in the paper about an FIR. If at all those investigations, there should have been serious investigation.
Okay, now you know what? I think the story is going to develop. I'm going to take a break here. Mr. Parak, we'll keep the watch. We'll keep talking over the next few days and let's see where this story goes. I thank all our panelists. I thank Navika. I thank all our panelists for joining me on a national poll projection debate. The question that I would like to ask at this point is, do you believe that these controversies like Colgate, which directly affect the government, are impacting the Congress at the centre? We'd like to hear from you. The numbers will be put back on the screen. As of now tonight, the NDA has 186 and the UPA has 117. We'll be back after a break.